Atlanta United Fan TV, AJ here with your player ratings for the Colorado Rapids v Atlanta United match. And guys, it was a 3-0 win, and we really put it to them. But you know, the second half was a little bit wanting, but you could understand why they took the pedal off the gas a little bit. It was 94 degrees out there in Colorado. Although, yeah, I mean, it's you know, a little bit of the dry heat, but still, it's you know, very hot nonetheless. And they understandably did what they did to see out the win. But 3 first-half goals, 2 in the first 20 minutes, and then the dagger by Tito at the end of it at the 37th minute in the first half. I mean, pretty much this was a very comfortable win for the Five Stripes. But getting into the player ratings, let's start with the goalkeeper, GUZAN. He didn't have too much to do in this match, but he made a couple of nice saves. I think a very untested type of match, I think, for Brad GUZAN. It's something that where the Rapids weren't really getting forward a whole lot. They weren't keeping possession very, very well, and so understandably, really, they were only gonna maybe trouble him very, very little. And yeah, he made one nice save and one that was directly at him from Kellen Acosta. I think a 7 does him well in this match. Next up was the surprise. It was the 3-5-2, and so Jeff Loretowitz coming in as the right center back. It's still a little shaky here and there. It's not exactly the steadiest right there, but I think he got turned around a little bit on some of Colorado's few attacks. And on a different day, it would have, against a tougher team, I think we would have been a little bit more susceptible to a goal. So I think with that, he didn't look the best, but it wasn't super shaky either. I think against a weak Rapids side, I think, playing him there, it ain't bad. And I think it's something that maybe with all 3 of the midfielders, with Loretowitz, with Remedi, with Nagbe all starting today, maybe it's Tata Martino not really making that decision quite yet, and so it might be rotation in the future still, but he definitely, it's still a guess who's going to start from game to game. So I think a 6.5 from Loretowitz for me. And next up to Parkey, our captain. I think a very strong match. He had a few times where, maybe some rust and, a bad misplaced pass here and there, but, he more than made up for it, and by not allowing them anything really. And so, yeah, I mean, very strong, solid match from Parkey, and I think a 7.5 does him well in this match. Next up is LGP, and he he does what he does, and in this match he had a great forward run from an interception that he put it in the back of the net against Tim Howard, and it was wrongly taken away. Essentially, it was called a foul on LGP, and I disagree. It would have been 4-0, and I still think it should have been. But I think maybe a little bit of mercy on the Rapids from the ref there. But who knows? Who knows? Either way, he had a very, very strong match, and I think a 7.5 from him as well. Moving on to our left wingback, McCann. Decent match from him, getting forward a little bit, but I think I would have loved to see a George Bello, come on in this match. Maybe after McCann tired, I think you could see that, maybe it was the taking the foot off the pedal, but McCann, wasn't getting forward as much in the second half. I think a solid match from him though, and it was a 7 for me. Next up is Eric Remedi. And it was his first match at the 6 as a holding midfielder, and he looked very, very strong. I believe it was him that had a, ball over the top that, that really just played Tito into space, and yeah, it was something that I think we saw in his highlight reels that he can do, and yes, it was just something that finally he gets to spread it out with his long passes, and boy did he do that in this match. But he was also pressing every single Rapids player in this match as well, putting good pressure on their offense, and I think it bodes well that relationship with Nagbe. I think it looks very, very strong, and so a very strong and steady match from him. I think a 7.5 for me. Next up, Darlington Nagbe. He's back in the lineup, straight in, and in a 3-5-2 that suited us well in the kind of earlier stages of this season. And really, it just seemed like he didn't miss a beat. He was very strong in possession, as you would expect. And, he was kind of tracking back and covering for our center backs as well. And at one point, it was when Larry got turned around, he made a crucial interception. So it was, a very complete match, although he didn't finish the entire match. And I think a 7 for me from Darlington Nagbe. He's just so great to see him back in the lineup, and it's such a key cog in our setup going forward. Gives us some selection headaches, which is great. And moving on to our right wing back, Julian Gressel. What a match he had with 2 assists and just putting just balls on a plate. And yeah, I mean, essentially all they had to do was pretty much tap it in. Miggy with his first, and then Tito with his as well. Yeah, and he was doing the work of a wing back as well, and yeah, I mean, he was just causing havoc on that right side, and the Rapids just couldn't cope. I think a 8. Actually, give a little higher. I think an 8.5 for me for Julian Gressel. And then moving on into the middle, we have Miguel Almiron. Just a fantastic performance. Although, yeah, I mean, he was getting hacked like he always does in every match, and I felt like Tito Martino should have taken him off a little earlier, not to risk him, and especially with 3 games in 7-8 days essentially. But Tata is gonna Tata, and so but with 2 goals and an assist, just really, really great stuff from Miggy today, and so great to see him on the score sheet. And those are what you want, out of Miggy and out of any of your goal scorers, to have those essentially tap-ins. I mean, that's just, it's no easier way to score for sure. But I think a man of the match performance for me, and I think a 9.5 for me. Moving on into the forwards, Tito Villalba, he scored his goal today, and he was making runs as he always does. Had that pass into LGP, who probably unrightfully got his goal disallowed. But all action from Tito Villalba always. Yeah, I mean, just a great, great match from him. I think an 8 for this match. And Josef Martinez, really, really unselfish today. He could have bagged his 29th. And really, he pretty much twice almost in a row, pretty much, I think. He lays it off to Miggy. The first one, it was a miss right at Tim Howard, but the second one, he really could have scored it himself, and yet he really unselfishly, the fusion to Miggy, and Miggy gets gets a goal from that, and it's great. It's what you want to see from Josef, is that complete player that he's been this year, and not only assists, not only goals, he's tracking back and making tackles, or still going for the ball in midfield, at the latter stages of the match. So still just solid game from Josef Martinez. An 8 for me for him. But that's it for the starters. But of course, you know, we saw Kevin Kratz come on for Nagbe. Kratz, yeah, he looked pretty decent as he always does. You know, kind of doing the Nagbe light type of thing, and had a shot from distance that was saved by Tim Howard. But you know, I think it's the first time I think I've seen Kratz shoot one from distance like that, and it was a pretty decent shot, but you know, didn't go in. But I think, you know, with a little bit of the time that he had 25 minutes or so. It was a a 7 for me from this match. Barco came on, and for me, he didn't really affect the game too much. He, you know, held possession, but it was one of those, he was, you know, definitely, it was more of just passing it back and, you know, just recycling the possession versus really doing anything too much in this match. It was, you know, something that I think I would have preferred maybe an Andrew Carlton to come on a little earlier, as well as a George Bello. But, you know, speaking of Andrew Carlton also came on, and he had 5 minutes to pretty much, unfortunately, not able to do much. It was a pretty flat second half from the Five Stripes completely. And so, you know, it is what it is. He gets not applicable for me. It was just, you know, there's and Ezequiel Barco as well. There's just not enough time for them to really, you know, really affect the match. But Tito Martino, you know, definitely got his tactics right. And, yeah, he gets a 9 out of 10 for me from this. And, yeah, you know, there's a speculation of Willie won't he with all the national teams that are supposedly interested in him, but he, you know, haven't reached out to him apparently. Yeah, I mean, he shows why. Yeah, I mean, tactically, you just, you have to push that button and push those buttons in the right place. And I think, you know, he, for the most part, got it right. We got the clean sheet. I mean, I think it's just in a tougher match. I don't think a Jeff Lorenowitz is a right center back, but you know, all's well that ends well in this match. But yeah, you know, always a shout out to those away fans. 10 out of 10. So many of them there, and being very, very loud. You could hear all the chants throughout the match. So you know, cheers to those Five Stripe fans. But that's it. That's the player ratings. Let us know what you graded our players in the comments below. But remember to subscribe if you haven't. Remember to share this video because it really does help us a lot. And smash that like button. And we'll see you in the next video.